politically wise, so there's not going to be any structure to this video. I'm just going to say what's on my mind as I sit in my chair and lean back. I saw an article on BuzzFeed, and it said about how, there's this guy with cerebral palsy, and someone said, "Oh, can we stop with these overcoming narratives, please?" And I even me with cerebral palsy, I have cerebral palsy myself. I was like, "Oh my god, that's strikingly true," but at the same time, it burnt while reading it. I was reading it, and I was like, "Oh, that really is difficult to digest." Then, underneath, there was an able-bodied girl who commented saying, "Oh, explaining no arguments or disputes, just casually explaining what the situation was to a person who asked, why is that? Why do people have to overcome that? Why is that a bad thing?" And then she said it's because it makes people with disabilities an other. Well, here's the thing. It does, obviously, it does make an other to most people. They're like, oh, a normal able-bodied person would look at that and go, oh, I don't have to overcome what that person does, and that person has a disability, and I don't relate to that, so it makes me and him different, which sets barriers, maybe, or many other things. Many different ways of, or circumstances could arise from such an idea. But then again, I was sitting there and I was thinking, don't we live in a world where ideas are like policed almost? Free speech and, all these different groups of people like feminism, MGTOWs, and all these different things coming up and popping up. You got one side here, one side over there. You got the alt right, you got the alt left, you got the right. I was going to say conservative right. I don't even know anymore. There's just so many different sides to every argument, And we're moving into the age of globalization, so we're a more connected world than ever. But people say we're more lonely. It just goes on and on and on. And then there's me sitting there just thinking, well, what do people with disabilities need a voice? Do they need a voice? Because if they have a voice, then just like every other group that speaks up, they'll just get shouted down, and they'll become part of the spotlight. Like as of now, I would say people with disabilities are the least represented with the most severe problem, which is ironic, really. People with disabilities are people that have survived birth or survived an accident, and they have to live all of their life with challenging issues, and they don't even get to take a day off from it. It's not like feminism where women complain about, oh, I want to get a job and equal pay. Well, that's it. I know feminism is way more complex, and there's other things like women getting raped, and there's also men who say like, oh, the marriage model in MGTOW is totally messed up. Like as if, everyone's like, oh, we got all these problems, but all those problems are not pandemic to the world. They don't stay the same. They're not issues that affect everywhere. They're like, it's probably majority, and that's why it's probably being spoken about, but it's not everywhere. It's not a problem that you can never change. One person could find that, yes, maybe women in the West are not great marriage material, and maybe he should try and get a mail order bride or something, but he has options to change that. With women as well, if you feel like at your job you're being mistreated, you have the option to change. And I'm not saying that you should have to, but there are some natural laws to this earth. There's some things you can't, you can't live outside your biology. You can't make reform on biology. I heard that quote once from somewhere. But yeah, you can't change any of that. But yet, people with disabilities, they don't have a choice. This is why I find it bizarre, because everyone's like talking about all these other world issues, but people with disabilities don't have a choice. So I could wake up tomorrow and I can't go, oh, I don't want my leg issue anymore. That's going to be with me till I die, till I'm dead. I don't have a choice in that change. And you can say, oh, well, what about people who don't like their fat or their eyes or their there's plastic surgery, there's weight loss pills. I know some people can't change everything about them. You can see me explaining every situation because we live in such a world where ideas like that, I've got to explain myself all the time. But when you think about it, disability in any form, severe to mild, is the worst thing ever. And obviously, there are some things that get put to light that are the right things to put to light. Like, for example, cancer is terrible. So that's a great thing to have awareness for, because that is horrific. There's no problem with that. Cancer research, great. Keep doing stuff like that. All diseases, great. But what about disabilities to do with the brain? I know there's research going on, but it's not being discussed, so it just gets forgotten about in the public eye. That's my point of view, anyway. But another thing I do find is that, yeah, well, you know what, really, that was really all I had to say. But oh no, here we go, right? So I didn't like the idea of us people with disabilities being in the spotlight, because a lot of people, right now are ignored. A lot of people just don't give a damn about disability unless it affects you personally. Like I've got friends and they all know I've got it. It doesn't change how they view me at all. It's not a problem there. But, things could improve in different aspects of my life. Like, for example, how people approach disability. They could be more knowledgeable. Like, I'm sure if there was a worldwide campaign about cerebral palsy, about mild cerebral palsy even, or severe, about how it is. So then people are more familiar with it, and it's not so like, oh, what's wrong with him? Because that's what it is today. It's a what's wrong with him situation. Where if you don't know about it, and it's gonna scare the crap out of you. But then this is my whole point, that putting us in the spotlight, then you become a target, and then you become something of, it's mandatory this, it's mandatory that. So perhaps, even though they're saying about disability or overcome, we're slowly making it an issue, and maybe that's not a good idea. We don't want to keep revealing everything about us, and in the end it's like a situation where, like feminism, for example, where now men are disliking women in masses on the internet, and it's growing because they they know the cat's out of the bag. Everything what women were complaining about, their nature, everything about them's out of the bag, and men don't like that. And there's going to be a shift there. It's the same with MGTOW. Women don't want to hear it. They don't want to know it. There's some things that you shouldn't challenge because you can't reform biology. And that's the same with my disability. Even I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for every person with a disability, but I speak for myself. And it's that I wouldn't want the spotlight on me. I've battled with the question for 25 years of my life. Am I ever going to be different? Why can't this change? But in the end, you have to realize that life is life. And it doesn't matter what you do, there's some things outside of your control. Perhaps I'm wrong. Again, I'm not saying this is fact. This is just my opinion. And obviously you're all entitled to have your own opinion in the comments below. And I hope people don't think I'm speaking in a way that's like a defeatist attitude. That's not what I'm after. But I do wonder sometimes if fighting for something that is against biology is really the right way to go about it. I wonder. But yeah, that's what I had to say. It just popped up in my head, and I thought I'd make a quick video on that. I'm not really going to edit this much. I'm just going to drag a picture and chuck it in with the audio and leave it up there for people to analyze. So thank you very much.